Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, Formpipe's commercial director, Mike Rogers, and business solutions consultant, Soren Hjorth, talk with me about different document management use cases in the realm of Dynamics applications. This episode is sponsored by Formpipe, and the starting point of our conversation is around business needs that Soren and Mike see out in the Dynamics ERP and CRM customer base today. They recount the real-world impact that recent projects have had for their customers to improve operations and utilize business documents. We also discuss some of our early impressions on what Microsoft's new AI investments, as shown in the new Dynamics 365 and Power Platform Copilot capabilities, could mean for customers, and why access to trusted data and documents will be so critical for that future vision. Our guests also provide an update on Formpipe's document management platform. Okay, I'm here with Soren and Mike from Formpipe. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you both back, as I said. And for our listeners, we've had both of our guests here on the podcast before, although I think separately. So it's great to have you together here. I'm really looking forward to getting into some of this conversation about scenarios and what you're seeing with Dynamics customers and as the product evolves. And yeah, that's really where I think I wanted to start. Well, maybe let's work in some introductions too. But I mean, where I wanted to start was where the Microsoft products that you work alongside, I guess, with your clients, how they're evolving, and maybe some initial thoughts about where you see the products going. So, well, Mike, maybe we start with you. Just give a bit of an introduction and a bit of your current outlook, I guess you'd say, on where documents and Dynamics are sort of coming together.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Mike Rogers, I'm the commercial director here at Formpipe. I've sort of been in this industry now around 20 years and seen a lot over those years in terms of documents and document management, and more recently in the Dynamics world. And I guess, we specialize mainly in the sort of F&O, but also the CE and the BC market around documents. And the transition that we're sort of seeing recently is certainly, I mean, I got told 10 years ago, right, that we will no longer ever be printing documents, and that will suddenly stop. But I can safely say even today, we get involved in many actual physical printing requirements because, in the retail industry, we all know you order something online, you fill in all your details, you suddenly get it through the post, and actually inside the box is a piece of paper and a label on the outside. So a lot of the standard stuff is still ongoing, even though we're moving more and more into a digital world. But what I would say is actually it's the merging of the systems together. So we come from a world where you would put in an ERP system and you would run the software off the back of that. But so many of our clients now are putting in not only the F&O, but they're suddenly putting in CRM systems, they're putting in warehouse management systems and those type of things. And they want a single point to be able to generate that information. So whether it's going out by printing or whether it's actually going out by email or digitally stored in an archive somewhere, the key to it is to have that central point, that central area where you can make sure that every document and every piece of communication you have with your customer is exactly the same. We all know that brands are so important today to many, many organizations. So if you get that wrong, your brand is also reflected in how you communicate with your customers, even if it's a piece of paper inside the box because you've just bought a nice pair of trainers off the internet, right? So to me, it's more about making sure that you've got that central area for generating the same look, the same feel, and the same type of documents. It doesn't matter what application you have there in the background. And I think we're seeing more of that now than we ever used to.
All right, interesting. Yeah, so that's something maybe we can get into a little bit more, but sort of the customer experience dimension of documents to some extent among the other challenges there. And Soren, welcome back to you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Maybe you could share a bit of what's on your mind as well, maybe building off of Mike's comment, or did you have other scenarios or other updates that are sort of top of mind?
Absolutely. I mean, I come from the more technical side of the company, right? So I'm part of what we call the business solutions group. And we are, as the name kind of indicates, that we're looking at solutions, right? We're trying to figure out how can we use our suite of products into a complete solution rather than just, another piece of software. And it actually ties into what Mike talks about. A lot of them want, that one single pane where, you go in, you can do everything through, whether it's an admin portal or it's just a one piece of software, but they want all the business processes being able to be processed through that one piece of software. So we see a lot, at least in my group, We have a lot of requests on automation, right? They want to be able to do a lot more of the manual processes in one single flow. You click one button and it does everything for you. And that kind of ties into the AI and the machine learning as well, right? And especially now with Chat GPT and Microsoft and all these different companies coming out with different versions. I studied at MIT for a while on all of this, and it's definitely a trend that a lot of our customers are asking, can your application support this trend? Can your application, do more of this for us? So they buy one solution, but they actually want more of a butler service kind of thing where they ask, I want to do X, but, the intelligence behind all of this does it for them, or as much as we can with today's technology. It's not quite there yet, but we will get there. Technology moves pretty fast these days.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things I had on my mind coming into this conversation. We're recording this sort of just after Microsoft's done, I guess, a wave of its own, AI-based announcements, specifically with the Copilot suite, I guess you would call it, of capabilities and how they're applying it in different places. And, not to dive into exactly what Copilot can and can't do, but one of the things that occurred to me in seeing some of those demos and some of Microsoft's vision on that is it's all predicated on the idea that these AI engines can look at an organization, look down, dive deep into an organization's data, documents, content, connections, and sort of extract the meaning from it, if you want to put it that way. So, it's something that Search has, when Search was the newest sort of conversation, it feels a little like that, but a whole nother level of, I guess, analysis and sentiment and understanding kind of in there, perhaps in a bit of a scary way in some ways. But I just wanted to get your input on sort of how all that content that's in those documents and sort of the understanding that goes into them. I don't know, do you have any outlook on how that's going to play into this whole world of AI-based tools?
I think that it's actually going to get quite exciting because this AI technology is there basically to summarize information, right? That's what it's all about, to be able to really summarize it in a very human-like way, and that's what they're trying to look for. So where we come from, and even if we take a simple application such as storing some documents down in an archive, adding some data to them so that you can actually go and find them, a particular invoice number or even a date or something like that. Where does that go now? Because with the AI technology, you would be almost speaking into something like we're just talking right now to be able to say, right, summarize me all of the invoices for the last 12 months that have come from Formpipe and show me it in a chart. And suddenly, this technology would go away, find all that information and bring it back on the screen. I mean, I think that's really the exciting part about it, that we don't have to have we will still have structured data, but the outcome of that structured data will then allow us to be able to summarize and view that in a completely new way going forward.
Yeah, and it's almost predicated on that. I guess that maybe that was one of my points. I mean, none of that, to me, it seems to me like anyway, especially these enterprise-based, AI type of services like Copilot for, Microsoft Productivity Suite or for Dynamics, it can't do its job unless you have a backbone of, solid data, solid information, solid connections. Otherwise, it wouldn't seem to me anyway to have really anything to understand accurately.
No, I completely agree. So the underlying what we've created, in the market over the last years still will exist and still will continue. However, it's the layer on top of that you're suddenly going to get out, which will allow you to explore all sorts of different things in your organization. And again, through what Soren's saying, in terms of automation and those types of things, and how you can explore that in your organization to be able to say, okay, no longer do we have to write routines down here or code over here, etc. We've got these engines that are able to do it all for us just through the simple requests, from a user or wherever it might come from.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to the automation theme a bit more if we could, because I absolutely agree that that seems like one of the focuses at both of customers and, at least from a Microsoft perspective, that seems to be one of the things they're really excited to try to, enthusiastic to try to encourage their clients to do, is to centralize their efforts around automation, to have everyone in the organization thinking, how can I better automate? And then obviously, how can I use Microsoft services, Power Automate and others to centralize that effort of automation. Is that something that you're seeing when you're talking to Microsoft customers, that they are trying to not just automate, but to, I guess, standardize their approach to automation as well? And how does that relate to what you're doing working with them?
Yeah, so I mean, from a more technical side, the request we get here at BSG is primarily that, right? How can we do that? But before we talk about that, I just want to add a little comment on that whole data structure thing, right? The need for most companies for structuring their data will be more apparent going forward. If they want to truly take advantage of AI and machine learning and all that, the ingestion of unstructured, structured data is no longer just enough, right? Now you have to understand your data and you have to somehow clean it, cleanse it, whatever we want to use of words, right? In order for the output to make any sense. So I think it's been a movement that has been going on for a long time, that, with all this data, petabytes of data that goes in every day and you can collect from all sorts of systems, that's not a problem anymore. But the problem is making sense of all that data, right? And that goes into also some of these automation things that you can build in there that helps you, using AI as well, sort or filter out the data that you need. But definitely I would say 9 out of 10 conversations I have with our customers are around automation, but I usually goes back to, what type of data do we have? Do you understand all of that? Is it in some sort of a clean data compile, right? It could be a data lake. It could be, with Splunk. It could be any way, you want to do these different things. But without that pre-work, it's garbage in, garbage out, most of the case, right? You can automate a lot, but you also need to trust that whatever comes out of this automation/AI is something that is real and it's not cluttered by biased data or contaminated data.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, because whenever I see a reveal of a new, big new technology push like Copilot, I mean, I wouldn't say anything's actually really all that similar to it, but when I see something like that, I immediately kind of go to the realist view, like, well, is a company with, sort of like you said, with their house not in order with these kinds of requirements, are they going to get an AI engine thinking that it's doing a great job and sharing a bunch of results? Like, here's all the documents related to this company, but it's a bunch of, inaccurate and outdated and maybe even misleading types of things that the AI thinks seem perfectly relevant and is trying to make sense out of, but it's creating this distorted view of the world, just as a result of just, again, the organization maybe not having the right clean sort of set of information in their systems.
And when you hear about it on the news or you read about it in any of the articles, everything is just, wonderful. You put all your data in at one end and it comes out at the other end, just,
magic.
golden and polished and beautiful, right? But that's really not where we are today. And I spend a lot of time, talking to customers about this, not to talk it down, because I love the technology. I'm super excited, just like Mike is, about what we can do and what is coming down the line. But we got to understand what the prerequisites or the pre-steps that we as a company, not only for us as software makers, but also for the Dynamics users, right? The people using all the Microsoft Dynamics systems, CRM or whatever, but that they have to do in order for something to come out at the other end that is usable and accurate, more so accurate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It could so easily, I think, devolve in the wrong circumstances into something where users see it and they go like, oh, it's just going to give me more misleading. I'm not even going to ask it for anything, because I know I'm going to get something. I'm just going to have to go double check everything again myself. And, it's going to spin off into its own little world of, weird hallucinations or something. So yeah, it's such an interesting, topic. I am really, really curious to see how companies who try it out, what they actually find from it and what it does within their organizations as a result. to try to, adapt to it. Yeah. So I guess, do we want to go back to the automation topic a bit? I am certainly interested because, like I said, I do think about that as well as sort of one of the big, I guess, overarching themes if you are talking to Microsoft clients these days.
Yes, automation, absolutely. And I mean, what we're trying to do here from Formpipe is we're trying to make sure that our applications integrate with other people that are very, very good at automation, right? We're good at what we do, but one of them is like AP automation, for instance. We can take all the information and we can output that information. We can, both OCR it in, go through our product and then output to, whatever file we want. But then going back into the system and post or whatever we want to do, in this case for AP automation, that's not what we do. But what we do is we find what we think are the best of breed out there, and then we build these API integrations with them, as a collaborative exercise. And then we, as a team, kind of build these solutions together. So I think Mike can talk more to this in terms of our strategy going forward, but we're definitely maybe saying staying in our own lane is wrong because we will develop and we have to develop as we go forward into the, all the different technologies. But we definitely also understands that are people out there that have already, 10 years ahead of us in a lot of these automation processes. And why not take advantage of that? And Microsoft is one of them, right? With Power App and Power Platforms and all that, which you also can use for automation. We have used some of those in solutioning, different business processes for our customers. And I don't think it's a wrong approach. I actually think it's the right thing. We do what we're best at, and the others, kind of support us or we support them, however you want to look at it, for the best outcome for the customer.
Interesting. Yeah. And for me, that's one of, I guess, the other big questions. I mean, anytime you're talking about what is Microsoft doing, what are its sort of goals and direction it's taking when it talks to customers, it's so impactful to pretty much everyone else in the ecosystem, whether it's a vendor like Formpipe with a specific, set of more advanced capabilities or a services provider or anyone. They're sort of always measuring that up. And I mean, certainly, I guess maybe the point I was trying to make earlier was, Microsoft's sort of push to make Power Platform like a core element of sort of business app strategy in all sorts of different kind of enterprises. I mean, it has to, I imagine, become a factor when any of your clients also in the Microsoft space are thinking about these topics.
Yeah, and I think when you're in the Microsoft world and when you're in the Dynamics world, you certainly cannot ignore the Power Platform and what it's actually doing and what it's bringing together. If we walk into a customer and don't talk about it or don't discuss it in terms of, as you say, automation, Soren, as you're saying there, or indeed apps or anything like that at all, then you're gonna get a very cold customer. So we are seeing more and more this integration to these applications. So as Soren's saying, our whole strategy is to be absolutely number one at what we do, and we've been doing this a while. Where it's the core of what we do. That's the platform that we're building for the future in terms of where we're going as a complete SaaS platform out there for people to be able to integrate with. So whether you're looking at Dynamics F&O, CE, or BC, or any of the Dynamics suite, you'll be able to integrate into us. But then also the Power Platform plays into that as well, where we might be able to push stuff out to the platform that then carries on a process afterwards. So we are seeing that, I think, in the past, and again, having been in this a little while, we've tried to do a bit of AP automation. We've tried to do a bit of this. We've tried to do a bit of that. But we're seeing more and more that we need to focus 100% on what our core business is. Because if we try and build a workflow engine into ours, there's other products such as the Power Platform out there that are pretty good at doing that. And we might as well integrate with that because the vast majority of Dynamics customers are already doing it. So to be really good at what you're doing is our vision going forward. And then to be able to allow that simple integration to something else, I think is the absolute core. So that you don't get a customer who turns around and goes, well, how do I join that one with that one along with this one? And then when you start talking AI that comes out the other end, they've all got to be integrated in together.
I mean, another one that comes to mind, I don't know if we want to go down this road, but is the sort of the industry stories that I certainly hear from Microsoft. And I know obviously so many vendors, cross industries as I know Formpipe does. Is there anything, I don't know, any customer stories that are top of mind that are maybe unique for their industry demands that we wanted to talk about today?
I can mention a couple of things where we have, followed what Mike just mentioned in regards to, we were good at one point, but then we find, whoever is good at the part that we don't do, right? So we have had a couple of customers wanting to do front ends, kind of like a customer platform or a website where you can find the documents pertaining to your company. So invoices, packing slip, whatever it is. Kind of like what you do with internet banks, right? When you go in and do your banking, you have your statements, you have all that. But a lot of the customers from, manufacturing or retail, like to be able to provide that to their customers as well. So when they use our application, it's usually output, to an email or a letter or something like that. But they want to be able to save that somewhere and then be able to present it. So we have an archiving system that we believe is able to integrate into our Lasernet suite. But on top of that, we found someone that were really good at these front end, very, very easy to build with, kind of like the Wix of front ends, you could say, right? And we have built a couple of that for some of the customers that have maybe 40 or 50 different brands. And that was a big success. We also have retail customers that does catalogs, right? So they have all their products and they used to print all these big catalogs out. Then they put them online, but it was still a manual process, and we were able to automate all that. And on top of the automation, we were also able to make them customizable. So the customer could go in and say, these are the type of products we're interested in. Please print me a catalog. And that was a lot of integration with external image applications and our application for the output side and stuff like that. So we are trying to do a lot of that and then automate all of this in one process. So for the end customer, whether it's, the financial department or if it's truly a customer out on the other side of the register, all they care about is, this is what I want. I don't care how we get there. I want one click and then I want something in my hand. And that's been a very exciting thing. We a third one that just come top of my mind is a medical billing company here in Indiana where I am. And they had like a 25, step manual process they wanted to figure out how to automate. And we used a part of the Power App and Power Platform, functionality to cut that down to maybe 4 steps. But the middle part was the big one where they had like 4 full-time employees doing nothing but just doing manual, comparisons, all these different things in this medical billing process. And they were able to go down to one of these guys doing, all of that work while the other 3 could focus on improving other business processes. So, it's freeing up, brain power to do more interesting and more, intelligent work per se than doing all the manual clicking and copying and pasting and comparison and all that fun stuff. We used our technology plus all the different plugins we could find out there, best of breed, to do this. So those are some of the stuff I just could remember now.
And the one that sort of jumps out at me there for its complexity or the level of difficulty, at least from my perspective, is that second one with sort of custom catalog outputting. That sounds like something where a client of yours might be asking for that, or a client of theirs might be asking for that. And it just sounds like it's something that might have been just unthinkable in another, a few years ago or in another generation, like that. The idea that
absolutely.
You could.
I mean, it definitely, it was revolutionized their whole way of thinking. And we started with one brand of this company, and now we have done it, we've copied that process or that method to 2 or 3 of their other brands.
And it's also, Soren, quite a prime example of how different vendors work together as well, because the actual implementer of Dynamics in that case also had to really configure the Dynamics setup to be able to start to create the information in such a way that we could then take it on and manipulate it even further to be able to produce the final result. I mean, the collaboration there that the customer saw between our 2 companies was quite incredible, really, to make that actually work through the 2 systems.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what we just talked about, 10 minutes ago about data cleanup, right? And they had to do a lot of that to structure that data in order for them to actually do this process fast and accurate.
So the reward at the end of the challenge of doing all that cleanup is some pretty advanced capabilities afterwards.
A fun project.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've been talking about all of these things in the context of Formpipe's document management platform. Do you want to take a moment, Mike, and just sort of let the listeners know exactly what we're talking about here and sort of what the latest is?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we've been in the what you would traditionally call the output and document management arena now for around 30 years, providing this kind of software right back to when there used to be green screens and green stripe paper being printed and that type of thing. So we've been around for quite a while producing this type of technology, advanced over the years, adding extra modules where we start talking about email and then archiving. So being able to produce the whole document, but also store it and distribute it at the same time. And we do it across a number of different industries, not only in the Microsoft Dynamics world, but we're big in the banking world and other areas as well, where we're generating millions of documents in one go to be able to be either emailed or printed, depending on how people want it. And still today, we walk into organizations where they need a piece of technology that actually encompasses not only just generating an invoice, which is really where they kind of bring us in for, but also let's generate the barcoded label, let's generate the communication to the customer, let's send them a text message, let's send them an email confirmation that's an HTML email with all the images of the things that they've just bought and that type of thing. So we really do encompass absolutely everything as an organization. We work globally. We work as a partner first channel. That's why we talk very much about the collaboration that we have with partners very closely. And taking a step forward over the next couple of years, we're looking to we already provide a SaaS solution for our customers out there, but we're going to take that up to the next level where we're going to be encompassing absolutely everything inside one platform. So the customer, we can spin that up within an hour to be able to get them a system up and running that will be fully integrated straight into the Dynamics system, and they can then start generating and producing those documents as quick as they like, whilst also storing it. And the core to all of that is integration. So being able to say that our platform will be sat there producing, sending, receiving data, etc., but the integration into the Dynamics application, not only to receive the data is the key, but also just recently we've actually built a new integration back into Dynamics where you can view directly from inside F&O the stored documents that are in the archive. And the important thing here is we're now starting adding an extra added value by, if you use the out-of-the-box Dynamics, you can view an invoice on an invoice screen, no problems at all. That technology is there. If you then layer on the actual Formpipe technology, you'll be able to not only see that invoice, but you'll be able to see the purchase order, the delivery note, any other document related to that transaction around it in the same screen, in the invoice screen. So we start then adding the value of what we know and our core knowledge over the years with that integration. So for us, it's all about the future. It's about the SaaS platform, completely offering it as a whole SaaS solution, and then also that integration layer on top. So whether it's F&O and maybe you've got another warehouse management system, and then maybe you've got another, whatever CRM system somewhere else, they can all integrate into our platform to be able to produce those documents, as I said at the beginning, as the same way that they should be. So that's kind of where we're going.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate that update. Anything else you wanted to add, Soren or Mike, before we wrap up here?
I think the AI topic is also the biggest one that's going to be talked about over the next 2 to 3 years. That's for sure. This technology comes around. That's probably what you're going to be discussing on most podcasts, and we probably will as well as it evolves. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it does evolve.
Yeah, it really is going to give us, there's so many different dimensions to talk about there. So yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, thank you both so much for being here. Great to have an update from you. Thanks for sharing some stories, and always interesting to hear those too.
Thanks, Jason. Cheers.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Soren and Mike for joining me today. And this message from Formpipe. For more information on Formpipe and its document management solutions for Dynamics, please visit www.formpipe.com, or please check out Formpipe content on MSDW. We will leave a link in the show notes. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.